Jerry Trimble.
Yeah, Jerry Trimble was a bad motherfucker.
Golden Boy. That's what they call Atlanta's Jerry Trimble.
He hails from Vancouver, British Columbia. Manny, the school teacher, Sobral. Manny Sobral.
Welcome back, everyone, to Two World Champions. And today we have the pleasure of having the one and the only Jesse Reid, a trainer of multi world champions and a trainer of hundreds of thousands of professional and amateur boxers, here with us from South Carolina. Good afternoon, Jesse.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That was fabulous. I'm glad to be here.
When's the last time you saw each other?
It's got to be at least 15 years, eh, Jesse?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think you're absolutely right.
But, you know, the time, as we get older, Jesse, time goes by much faster. So it just seems like a snap away. Like it doesn't seem that long ago, really. Because I can remember you in the gyms, you know, the top-ranked gym in Vegas and stuff. And
Oh, those are exciting times. That actually, working with Roger was a real challenge because he was a very strong-minded person. I didn't have a lot of respect for anybody, but I saw on 24/7, it said the only white man I respect is Jesse Reid. That made my heart feel pretty good because he drove me nuts.
yeah, and that's Roger Mayweather, Floyd's uncle, right?
Yeah.
Yes, his uncle. Roger was a hell of a fighter. He just didn't have the discipline that Floyd Jr. developed, and that was really good.
You know what's crazy about that family? I always find it, like the three guys that fought, like there was Floyd Sr., Floyd's dad, there was Jazzy Jeff Mayweather, and then there was Roger. And Roger was one that had the huge punch. Jazzy Jeff could move pretty good, and Floyd could do everything as well, but he couldn't punch quite as well as Roger. So I think Floyd Jr. got a little bit of everyone.
I really do, but I really think when his dad was in trouble with the law, I guess he was in jail for a while, Roger was really the trainer. I mean,
yeah.
Until Roger started having dementia and getting a little older, he rehired his dad back with him. But Roger did most of the training of Floyd Jr., even when he was real young.
So really in the 80s and 90s, it was Roger Mayweather that developed Floyd Jr., right?
Exactly. He really saw his talent and really worked hard with him. And I got to give him a lot of credit. He did a lot of things that were special for that young man. And I think I taught Floyd Jr. a little something when I had Paul Spadofora spank his butt.
Oh.
Tell us about that moment.
Well, it was really an interesting time. We were getting ready to fight Cardona for the world title. We had been in Vegas for about 2 months, and he was in top condition, working with Stevie Forbes and a lot of the good fighters in Vegas, and he was really on top of his game. And then the father was getting a little jealous because we were getting a lot of publicity, and he come over to me one day and said, "Why don't you let that paisano box with a real fighter?" And I said, "Who's that?" He said, "My son." I said, "Well, I'd love to do that, but in 2 weeks we're gonna fight for the world title. I'd be insane to put two world champions." They both were lightweight champions at that time together because he might get a cut or something else. And they started calling us a bunch of names and making a lot of gestures, and Paul came to me and he said, "What do you think, Jess?" I said, "Well, Paul, your managers, and your promoter would want to kill me if I put you in there with them, but I'll tell you something. I haven't seen him in the gym, and I don't think he's been training that much. And I definitely think if he went 6 rounds with you, you'd spank his ass." He said, "Tell him we want to do it." So I told him, and I told the father, I said, "All your bragging and everything," I said, "you're going to eat it." I said, "I'm going to tape this, and I'll have the tape." And I did, and I put it on YouTube. And I guess that Floyd's not dumb. He learned a lesson from that. He never was out of shape again after that. He knew that, Paul's just spanked his tail end from one end and the other.
That's a crazy story.
What a story. They never fought each other professionally, though, correct?
That fight would have drew tremendous amount of, the Italian boy that beat him in the gym. It would have been millions of dollars. But Paul, I had him for like all the way up until he was 45-0. But he had a little bit of tappy in him, and he started drinking a lot and using drugs. And as much as I loved him and everything, I told him, Paul, I can't handle you with this type of a thing you're doing. So I told him, you should quit boxing because you're going to get hurt. You're undefeated and you should not fight anymore. And he went on and continued his career. And then, Paul went through a lot of trauma and bad things that happened to him. And he still calls me and we still talk and everything. He just has that bad habit of just drinking too much and too much fooling around with drugs.
I was watching Mike Tyson talk about Floyd Mayweather just recently, and he was saying the one vice that Floyd Mayweather Jr. has is the gym.
Well, I think that's a pretty good, Tyson, I also see where when he just did this exhibition that he just had, he's changed a lot. I think his wife has done a good job with him. I had the chance to train Mike Tyson after the Francois Botha fight, and I went over there to his house, and before I could get through the gate, there were about 3 security guards effing me all the way down the line. Like, who are you? What the hell are you doing here? And I thought, shit, this isn't worth it. I was ready to go. And Shelly Finkel saw me on the monitor, and he come running out. He says, no. That's Jesse Reid. Let him in. He's going to be training Mike Tyson. So I go into Tyson's home there right next to Wayne Newton. And he comes up and gives me a hug. And when he hugged me, I was scared to death he was going to bite my ear off, to be honest. And so I kind of froze up. But anyways, I relaxed and I started talking to him. And we started working in the gym. And he had just tremendous power. But he was like just relying on power all the time. And I told him, wouldn't it be nice, Mike, to have somebody work with you and tell you some things that could help you and get honest information instead of all this bullshit with this crocodile and all these idiots you got running around here, telling you crap. You need to get rid of these people and listen to your manager and your trainer and your promoter and just have, he said, Jesse, I know they're all jerks, but he says, I love them. And I want to stay with them. And I said, Mike, I don't think I can help you with that type of a background. I'm the only guy to tell him no, and I walked away. Well, he came back to the Hilton Hotel the next day begging me to come back. And I told him, you get rid of all those hang-oners and crazy people you got around you, and then I will come back. And he didn't. But then I saw him 6 years later at Taco's gym. He said, Jesse, come here. I'm going to say something to you, and I'm only going to say it once. And I said, what's that? He said, I wish I'd have damn listened to you, he said, And I said, I do too. I could have made a lot of money. But that's my big story with Mike Tyson. But he's a very smart guy. He's very humble. I was really shocked when I had that time with him. And when I saw him in this exhibition, I really respected the fact that he respected the sport the way he did, and he's cleaned himself up. And actually, he did very, very well.
For a 54-year-old, right?
He did very well. I saw the one thing I was trying to do with him and I think there was a lot of jealousy when it was happening, was trying to get him to work with angles and make his body more on a 45-degree angle. And he was hitting twice as. In fact, he hit me one time in the chest, and I was sore for 2 weeks. It was unbelievable. And I told him, look, Mike, I'm not your heavy bag. He said, yes, that was an accident. Well, Johnny Tapia heard about it. He was pissed off. When Mike came over, they were close. And when he he said, don't you ever hit my coach again, he told them. So I was kind of happy to see Johnny Tapia stand up for me like that.
You mentioned while you were talking, like Mike Tyson having all these guys like the crocodile around him. Like Mike Tyson owned a crocodile in a lion or something that he had at his home, didn't he, or something?
Yes.
But that wasn't the crocodile you were talking about, was it?
No, Crocodile was a fighter. I mean, an ex-fighter, and then he was trying to be his cheerleader, Black Power.
And he always had a hat on, I remember, at the gym,
and a
right?
radio, and
Yeah.
he was getting paid a salary. It was just a waste of money.
Yeah.
And he was running to different bars and stuff all the time. And
It's funny you say that because I remember being at the Nevada Partners gym, and he was chumming around there. The crocodile was, and I thought he was just the most comical guy I've ever seen.
believe me, he was a nightmare if you had to
Oh, I
try
bet.
to, he just wanted complete control of Mike.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm probably saying a lot of things that are going to get me in trouble here, but it's all the truth.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say you were greeted by 3 lions when you went to visit him.
Yeah.
Well, he had the lions on the side of the buildings, I don't think I got that far, that close. I went to the gym. I saw a bunch of cars out there, and I told Mike, I said, geez, I thought there were a lot of people here. He said, oh, no, those are all my cars. He had like $200,000 cars. So I think Floyd Jr. has kind of copied Mike Tyson. He likes automobiles like that and has a ton of them.
Yeah.
Waste of money.
Jesse, did you watch the Garcia versus Campbell fight?
I did.
What did you think?
I thought it was a great fight at times, but I was very disappointed, to be honest with you.
In what regards? In Luke Campbell or Ryan Garcia?
See the hype that it was built up to be. It didn't show me that really in every way,
And you talked about 45-degree angles and things like that, Jesse, and that's the key to boxing, I believe. Like when I was down there and I was listening to you and things about getting angles on fighters, and didn't you find Garcia was straight in front of Campbell the whole fight? Like he never did any angles. His head was where it was. Like his head hardly moved the whole fight.
Exactly. It's almost like he went in there in a way of just thinking he could use power or whatever. He didn't really set his power up. He didn't change speeds. Like he's got so much boxing ability. He disappointed me. And the angles is right. When you're playing football and you're one-on-one with a guy blocking you, it's not him you got to worry about. It's that guy on the side that hits you from the blind side. Boxing is like that. The more you can, Orlando Canizales probably was one of the greatest fighters I ever had, and one of the most talented angle fighter in boxing. And he was champion for 8 years, 6 years, and he had something like 21 title defenses. Yeah. Some were non-title, but 19 were title fights, and there was 2 or 3 non-title fights. But what got him was just age, not anything else. He was such a talented athlete.
So, liking angles, you must like the Russian Vasily Lomachenko, the Ukrainian fighter.
I like him so much. I think the father, when he took him to the dancing lessons and taught him how to move on his feet, he definitely is a great athlete. I think this last fight he had the long layoff. He got started a little late. Yeah. But he's still a great fighter. And the angles is what makes him a great fighter.
I recently watched the Hector Camacho documentary. I'm not sure if you have seen that. I think he was one of your students as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I was really disappointed. Teresa was a little disappointed too, because they didn't really show when I was really working with the Danny Romero fight and also with the Medina fight. I mean, some great fights that he was, not supposed to win. He was an underdog in both fights, and he beat both those fighters like he owned them, And I remember when Johnny was, before he was going to fight Danny Romero, it was such a big fight because they both came from the same town, and they both were hyped as a great fighter. But Danny was picked the power puncher that was going to destroy Johnny Tapia. And Johnny Tapia could box, and a lot of people didn't know that. They thought he gets angry and just walks in and just goes to war. And I told him the night before that, I said, the key to this fight is the first 5 rounds. Don't try to trade toe to toe with this guy. Make him miss, use the great boxing skills you have, and show all these people what a great boxer you are. Believe me, he beat him like he stole something. It was a beautiful, beautiful fight. And he was a 3-1 underdog. And I remember Bruce Tramper telling me, geez, you're going to get killed in this fight, Jesse. And he was a Johnny Tapia fan. And I said, well, when the fight's over, Bruce, you tell me who got killed. And Bruce came to me and says, how in the hell did you do that? I said, well, I kept Johnny under control and had him just work his boxing skills. He's, Johnny's not only just an angry person, he can box and he can be calm. And that's what he did in the fight. And then when he fought Medina, I made an aggressive fighter out of him and going to the body. Medina was this great boxer, and we had to change styles. The great fighters are the guys that can do different things when they need to do them. It's not always the same style all the time. It's the ups and downs, the angles, knowing how to relax when you got to relax, and number one, be in top condition and take it serious.
And that's what I find about Floyd Mayweather. As the fight progresses, he gets the distance on guys, and he just knows how to read them before they even know what they're going to do. Floyd already knows what they're going to do because he reads them so well, I find. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, he's got that great timing device in his body and mind. He grew up around his dad was a fighter. Roger was a great fighter. He's been around nothing but boxing, but he's smarter than people give him credit for. Even though he can be cocky and you get a little angry with him, the young man is a smart man. When I whipped him with Paul, he right away realized, man, I'll never go into the ring. He came to me in the 4th round and he said, Jesse, I'm tired of this. Is good. You're going 2 more rounds, or I'm going to tell everybody what a coward you are. And that showed me that he had balls, because he went the 2 rounds when he was exhausted. And when after the tape, if you look at it, he's laying on the ground with his arms spread out like he's on the cross, and he was completely exhausted. And I think he said to himself, I'll never, ever put myself in that kind of position again. And that shows his intelligence.
Wow.
Jesse, what started your boxing life from the beginning?
Man. My dad and my uncle were fighters in the Army. They boxed in the Army. They were on the boxing team. And my dad always had gloves. When my brother and I get crazy, he'd say, well, let's put the gloves on, and when one drops, and we'll call it quits. And I was around boxing, but I was really a great football player and a baseball player. I was just real thinking that was the way to go. And then when I went in the service, they saw that I was an All-American football player, and they asked me to play on the Navy football team. And I said, anything to get out of Vietnam. I said, I'll be happy to play on it. So when I did, I got a call from the Chief of Naval Personnel in Washington telling me, Jesse, we want to keep you on the football team, but you got to get into a sport that you go all year round. I said, what's that? He said, well, we have a boxing team back then when they had a boxing team in the 60s. 1961, and he said, if you make the boxing team, we'll TAD you for the whole time you're in the service. I said, I'll tell you what, get the orders ready. I'll make the boxing team. And not only did I make it, I ended up, winning the World Amateur Championships. I won the National Golden Gloves. I won the AAUs. I won the All Service Championships. And I'm not bragging. I'm proud of it, because of fear of Vietnam. That's what fear comes into play. I every time I get in there and I'd be fighting somebody, I'd say, you ain't sending me to Vietnam, son of a bitch. I try to kill him. And I wasn't pretty to watch, but I got the job done. And that's the truth. But once I did it, I realized that this is a sport. I got so much attention from it. I'd had the whole base would come and watch me. When I won the Golden Gloves in San Francisco, there were 7,000 Navy people there to watch me fight. And I realized that there's a great responsibility and a great thing you could do to help other people through boxing. And I loved it so much for the attention that I got, and it made me feel so good to win. And even when I lost, I felt like I gave it all I had, but it just, it made me love the sport. And I had a chance to play pro football with the San Diego Chargers. I quit playing football.
Oh,
I quit doing any of them things and just checked the boxing. I remember on the base one time, I'm on the base training like a madman trying to get where because I wasn't really well coached at that time. I was just starting out. And the guys at the base said, Jess, are you going to come off and go? We're going to go out to town. I says, you guys go ahead. I'm going to do 1,000 sit-ups. I got to win this fight. I'm trying to stay out of Vietnam. So to me, I think the fear of Vietnam made me get me into boxing and made me to love it a lot. And I knew I didn't have the skills a lot of other guys had, but I had the toughness. So that being one part of my game, it took me a long ways. And then eventually I started learning by watching different people in the gym and picking up angles and watching how they feinted and watch how they changed their heights and different things they did. I was around a lot of good fighters because I trained at the Hoover Street Gym in Los Angeles when I got out of the service. And I was probably, me and Frankie Crawford were the only two white guys in the gym. It was and every one of, I remember coming into the gym and Jake Shagru was on an old bench and he said, hey, white boy, what do you want? He didn't know who I was. And I had just won the nationals and I was feeling pretty good about myself. He said, you see that? He says, what are you doing here? I said, I'm looking for Jackie McCoy. I heard he's a good manager and I want to see if he wants to manage me. I'm coming out of the military, you know. And he says, go over in that corner and practice falling down. You're going to do a lot of it. I go, why do you talk to me that way? He says, because every black guy in this gym and every guy that's in here, you're white, aren't you? They're going to kick your ass. That's what he said. So after 2 years was over, and I'm walking through the door, Jake says, hey, Whitey, you're a tough son of a bitch. He goes, and that was the greatest compliment I think I could have ever gotten. I felt so good about that. But I know what prejudice is. I know what it is to get your name known and understand and love what you're doing, no matter what's in front of you, you know. And first time I ever been around prejudice, I was in North Carolina, and I was at one of the all service championships, and I never had been around that because I played on my football team and we shoot. There were more blacks than white people, you know. They were all good athletes and they were good friends of mine. And I seen white and black drinking fountains. I saw that you had to be on the bus. I was sitting on the bus with the boxing team and all these people are giving me dirty looks. And I said to Al Robinson, I said, Robinson, what the hell's going on here? What's wrong? What's wrong with these goddamn peas? Jesse, you're not supposed to be on the bus with us. I said, screw them. That's what I told them, you know. And all those lessons you learn from that, they really make you realize what life's all about. It's not about anything else but what you put into it and what you want to make out of yourself. Mm-hmm. That's what I told myself. I said, the hell with this crap. I'm going to train my butt off and do the best I can with it. And then when I quit boxing, which I had a great manager and I had a great record, but he saw me taking the beatings I was taking and he didn't want to see me get hurt. And he told me, you know, Jesse, he says, you got a college degree. I'd like you to coach some fighters for me. So my first fighter I worked with was Rodolfo Gonzalez, who had been through about 5 or 6 different trainers. And I saw something in him with angles that was unbelievable. I mean, he reminded me of Canizales. And I started and everybody was telling me that he don't speak English that well. You're going to have a hard time with him. He's been through all kinds of training. But Jackie liked him. And I said, you know, Jack, I like this guy. I really think I can do something with him. What's he do? He fights Chungar Carmona in 1970 and wins the world title. My first fighter I trained wins the world title, which everybody thought he'd never be a champion, you know. And he did it with his angles and the things that I developed with him at that time. And I said, you know, this training bit is not too bad. I kind of enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. And I started really working hard. Then I got Shotgun Alvarado, another fighter that the Japanese had. And I made a big relationship with the Japanese when I was in Tokyo when I won the Far East Championships. And I met a promoter there and he remembered me. And I told him wouldn't it be nice to bring some American fighters to Japan and maybe be sponsored by them? And I got Bruce Curry and Jesse Burnett. They called Curry Fuji, and they called Jesse Masako. So I'm the first one to bring American fighters to Japan to be sponsored by Harry Yamagata and the Kanehira, that was the promoter at the time. And so just some nice things that went on with my beginning of my career. And all of a sudden, here comes Roger, here comes Bruce Curry, here comes Frank Tate. That just down the line, people started coming to me. And then when I went to the Houston Boxing Association, after Roger's career was kind of ending, I just started getting all these great athletes like Orlando. And I remember when Orlando's brother, Gabby, fought Sandoval for the world title, I had told Bob Spagnola, I said, Bob, Sandoval's having trouble making bantamweight. Get that fight for the world title for Orlando's brother, Gabby, because I think he can beat him. Well, he didn't only beat him, he destroyed him, put him in the hospital and won the world title. But then Gabby was not like Orlando. He wasn't loyal to the people that helped him at that time. And he ran off to go with Emmanuel Stewart. And then he ended up losing his title and came back to me and back with the Houston Boxing Association and stayed with us for about another 10 or 12 fights and won them all. But his heart wasn't in it like Orlando. And Orlando was so loyal, he stayed with us, Bob Spagnola and I, for like 15 years. And look what he did. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame, the greatest bantamweight in boxing as far as I'm concerned. I got to be pretty proud of it because he was 16 when I started working with him, and I started putting him on a tire and working on angles and working on him stepping around on the tire and angling and keeping the weight on the tire. And he ended up being one of the greatest ankle fighters in boxing. So, that's kind of a background of how I got started and all this stuff. And I picked up so much on watching these kids. I remember one time I'm in the gym with Hedgeman Lewis, and he was a #1 welterweight in the world. And he gave me a fit. I just could never get away from his punches. And my eyes, I could be going home from LA all the way to Long Beach where I lived at that time. And I'm riding home. I said, this damn boxing, man, is getting tough, And I said, my eyes blackened, my nose is bloody. So one day I'm coming into the gym. I'm going to fight at the Olympic Auditorium. And Jackie says, you know who you're boxing today to get you ready for this fight? I said, who's that? He said, Hedgeman Lewis. Oh, Jesus, man. I said, he kicks my butt every time I get in there. He said, Jesse, that's the only way you're going to get in shape. And I said, okay. So I went in there. I didn't really want to go in there. I didn't feel good. I don't know what it was, but that day I was on my game and I knocked his ass out. And that made me so proud because I took 2 years of ass kicking from him, and I finally one day just knocked him out. So when my son, I bragged about Hedgeman Lewis all these years, and I always tell my son, I said, that was the one guy that gave me nightmares, And so my son wanted to meet him, and we're in Vegas, and when he was working with Eddie Futch, I brought him over to meet Hedgeman, and Hedgeman says, hey, Jesse, so my son wants to talk to you. He said, my son told him, my dad's been bragging about you all the time, how you box. He says, yeah, that's your dad, that son of a bitch, the only one that ever knocked me out. And so it doesn't matter if you get beat up. It's just, you remember one thing when you get knocked out. That's what I told my son. So that made me feel good.
Out of all the assets that a fighter has, like speed or reaction time or endurance or the heart or footwork, what do you think is the most important that makes a fighter a great boxer?
You got to go through hard times. You got to know what it is. Like Johnny Tapia was a drug addict. He saw his mother get killed. He went through some hard, miserable things in his heart, in his eyes. But the one thing that Johnny really lived for was people coming to him and say how great of an athlete he was, or how what a gentleman he was. His compliments that he got from what he did made him love it so much and made him work so hard, and also knowing that he made it through the hard times, and he knew that he was getting appreciating of the good times. And I think the most important thing is to have that hunger, know what it is to be told you're not good enough to be in this sport. You shouldn't be here, and you end up proving to people you are good enough and you are there. It's just the heart. The heart is so important. But then you have to be able to have the inner skills that God gives you, maybe some punching power, some speed, good knowledge of the game, want to love the game and live it. You have to want to really learn and listen to good people. Boxing has a lot of bad people, and it also has some good people. But a lot of these kids get wrapped up into some bad situations, and if they can get out of that and get with somebody that cares about them, like I remember, I had this kid Ansi Gideon. He was a homeless kid. He wandered into my gym in Westminster. It wasn't my gym, but I was the one with all the top athletes in there. My son came to me and he said, "Dad, there's a young man in here. He's homeless, but he says, this son of a gun is tough. And he says, I want you to take a look at him." And I said, "What's his record?" He said, "I think he's been fighting just to get food and stuff. Nobody's really helped him. And everybody he's fought has been bigger than him and stuff." But Dad, he's got something in him that's just unbelievable. And I said, "Well, let me take a look at him." And I watched him. And at that time, I had Gonzalez in the gym. And I liked him so much because he had such a great desire. But this kid was living on eating anything he can get a hold of, never broke the law, but he was homeless. He had come from Haiti and was in and out of gyms, and people just threw him into fights and stuff. So I told Nancy, I said, "Nancy, I don't know what I can do for you, but I'm going to try. My son told me about you, and my son likes you, and I like what I see." And I said, "I'll try to help you to be a better fighter and get you on your feet. Maybe you'll have something instead of being." So I had a friend that owned the deli in Westminster at that time, Paul's Deli, they called it. And I said, "Paul, I've got a homeless kid that I'd like to see you help out. Maybe he can mop the floors and you can feed him, until I get him going on boxing, because he don't have anything, And he said, "Jesse, I'd be happy to do it, And he ended up being number one in the world. And it wasn't only that he was so tough. It was the love that he and the attention that he got from boxing. And today, Ansi Gideon has his own masonry business. He can't read or write. And anyways, he couldn't at that time. And a judge took a liking to him and got him citizenship. He didn't have citizenship. And the whole town of Westminster kind of backed him. And he beat Sergio Reyes. He beat Zarate. He beat Zarate's cousin. I remember when I put him in a fight with a real fighter, that Cedric Kushner. I went over to him and I said, "I got this young kid, Ansi Gideon. Can you put him on Orlando's card in San Antonio against Quiroga?" And he says, "Jesse, Quiroga's, you got a guy that don't mean anything. Who's going to cheer for him?" I says, "Me and my son." I said, "That's all he needs." I said, "Just give him a chance." He says, "Okay, I'll put him in there." He says, "Would he fight Quiroga for $2,500 in an 8-rounder?" Quiroga had lost his title, and he was making a comeback, but he had all these fans there. I told Ansi, I said, "Ansi, you beat this guy. This is going to be the start of your life changing." And Ansi said, "Jess, if you think I can beat him, I'll do the best I can." Well, Quiroga hit him in the second round and dropped him. And I looked over and I go, "Oh, shit, I made a mistake here." And Ansi just took him the next 6 rounds and tore him a new tail end. He just beat the shit out of him. And I remember that we were getting ready to leave the town. And who was outside in a limo waiting for us? Cedric Christensen, where in the hell did you get that kid? And that was the start of Ansi going to #1 in the world and changed his whole life. And today that he's a leading citizen, he's got his own business. He took his money that we made he never won the world title. He had through the fights he had before I got him, he had bad eyes, and I didn't know it. He would cheat on the eye exam. It wasn't like it is today. And he he was blind in one eye. And when he fought for the world title in the 11th round, he's right in the fight, but his eyelid was laying down on the bottom and he couldn't see. And I said, Ansi, I got to stop this fight. You're gonna lose your eyesight. He said, Jesse, I'm winning the fight. Don't stop it. I go win the title. I said, no, I got to stop it. And I stopped, and because of his insurance, I got him to go to UCLA, and they fixed his eyes and everything else. But today he's a leading citizen. He's in Paul's deli all the time when he's over there to visit with Paul, who was his father at that time, and really watched out for him. Not really his father, but he treated him like his father. Mm-hmm. And it just, those moments make you proud of being a part of boxing. When you can take kids like that and make something special out of them. And I remember him crying in my arms, and he says, you know, Jess, I never thought I'd win again. I want to thank you, and that was like a million words to me. And it made me so proud that I was proud of him. And I'm proud today of him, And that's what makes you love the sport, is when you can take kids like that and make something out of them.
What a story.
That's why I love boxing.
That's incredible.
So how did you meet Manny? Tell us that story.
Well, Manny and I ran when I was in Canada. Manny was the first time.
Yeah, but I also ran into you at the Westminster gym because I
Westminster gym.
Remember Tank Abbott used to train in there?
Oh,
UFC guy.
That's another story. Tank Abbott I trained him for a while.
Yeah.
I got him down to 225, and he almost won that big tournament. Yeah. But he was an evil, drunkard, crazy dude, man. I couldn't get him to do the right things. And his dad was the wrestling coach for Orange Coast College, and really, he'd bail him out of jail all the time. That crazy son of a gun picked up fighters and threw them out of the arena. He could bench press 600 pounds without.
I know. That's all he did when he came to the gym. Like I told these guys, he'd put a few plates on the bench you had there, and he'd bench, and then he'd get on his Harley and drive away again with his dog in the back and a big crate he had him in.
Yeah, he could have been really something if he would have lived clean. He just wouldn't do it. That alcohol got a hold of him, and he got to be an evil devil. I quit training him because he was a nightmare for me. I had no chance to help him, But I mean, he had a lot of respect for me, but at the same time, I couldn't whip that alcoholism. It was a bad situation. But I remember those days. That's right. It was a Westminster gym. Yeah, we used to have some great stories.
Yeah, that's right. It was a fun time, Jesse.
And when Orlando was there, and Jesse Burnett was there, who was my first fighter I ever had. Another great story. There's so many great stories in boxing.
And there's so many Rocky type stories of the underdogs, the underdogs that come and work hard. And I think that you're right about that. Boxing is when you have the heart, anything can happen, man, because 10, 12 rounds, it's a long way, man.
Well, look at Bobby Chacon. Bobby Chacon's fighting Bose Edwards, and I told my son, this is going to be a great fight. And I put him at ringside at Caesar's Palace so he could watch. He was young at the time. I wanted him to see the heart that Bobby Chacon had.
Yeah, he did.
Bobby ended up getting bust over both eyes. He had been down 3 times. He had Bose down once. And the doctor told him right there in the corner, I could hear him say, Bobby, I got to stop this fight. You're too badly cut. He says, don't you dare stop this fight. I'm knocking this son of a gun out. And it was a 15-round fight at that time. What's he do? He knocked him out in the 15th round. It showed me what heart is all about. You know, how somebody can get through, and Bobby ended up in a bad, I mean, he died through alcoholic and doing things that are crazy. But man, when it came to fighting, he was a fighting machine. I mean, he just put his heart and soul into it. And I think Bobby also loved the attention he got from it, the love the people gave him, and the satisfaction of just talking about him in a good way instead of a negative.
So you and Manny specifically, when you guys connect and you work together, if you could share that story.
I don't know. Like,
Well, I think that just the conversations was working together. I liked what he had to say. I knew he loved what he's doing. I knew that he would be good for boxing, and I enjoyed his company. And those are the things that make relationships, you know. And here we are today, boom. You know what I mean? It's just there are things you. It's just like a fighter. When you have trained a fighter, no matter if it's been good relationship or bad relationship, and yet that fighter still respects you and talks about, like I told you, I didn't get along with Roger Mayweather. I wanted to kill him half the time, but I had a job to do with him working for Billy Baxter, and I did my job. And Roger, I think, respected that. He knew that. And he begged me. I quit him one time. He told me, "You'll never make any money off me again because I'm tired of your criticism and this and that." And he quit working with me. And I told him, "Roger," I says, "not a problem." He says, "Yeah, you'll never get another hamburger out of me." That's what he said, you know. And so I was at one of I used to go to the fights at Caesar's Palace, and Roger saw me there, and he come running over. "Jesse, could you give me another chance?" He had won the lightweight title with me, and then I quit him in the middle of that. And he begged me to come back. And I told him the only way I come back is if you do what I tell you to do. Otherwise, I'm not going to train you anymore. I don't want any more of your disrespect. He did everything I told him to do, you know, and he ended up winning the 140-pound world title. But Roger had some real crazy things going on at the same time. And I don't want to say too much about bad things, but he went through some bad times. And it showed in his life. I mean, look at him. The poor guy would have blackouts and couldn't even know where he was at, and just got to be a sad situation. But I'll always remember that in 24/7, the only white man I respect is Jesse Reid. And that made me know that I did some good things with him, and I taught him the right things. I think, you know, Manny's that way. He's part of boxing. He wants to do the right things. And that's so.
Yeah, I used to always see you at the shows that Benny Giorgino put on as well at the Lucky Eagle Casino. I remember seeing you there a few times too.
Yes, and you know something? My son fought on Benny Giorgino's cards.
Right. Yeah, he did.
And Benny Giorgino was a real boxing guy. I mean, he loved boxing. And he did, when he took over Howie Steiner's job with little Danny Red Lopez, and he ended up winning the world title. You know, just but Benny loved boxing too. He always did. And
he was good. He was good friends with Jackie McCoy as well, that manager.
Oh, they were the best of Jackie McCoy and Don Chargan and Benny Giorgino were very, very close.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in that mix, but I was kind of in the background. I learned from a lot of great people in boxing. I watched them.
Because you were just a little bit younger than those guys. That's what it was, I think, Jesse.
Yes, and I was learning stages, but they taught me well. You know,
and I'm so happy to have been able to actually be around those type of people, like, you know, back in the 90s and late 80s and 90s. You know, Jesse, and I'm really fortunate to have met people like you through my journeys and so many others. And out of all the fighters that you train, though. Like I see, you were with Lamont Brewster too, because I trained with Bill Slayton for a while, and Bill Slayton passed away, and I think you went on to train Lamont were you with him when he beat Vladimir Klitschko for the world WBO?
He won the world title, and actually Sam Simon was the manager.
Right.
And Sam Simon called me up, and I had Lehman when he was an amateur before Bill Slayton.
Okay.
I had him when I had taken him all the way to the nationals, but he wasn't a loyal individual. He had a little bit of boxing craziness in him, and he left me. He's one of the Montel Griffin and him. I put up in an apartment, and I spent my own money, put clothes on their back, gave them enough to get to the gym. First time in my life, I really just spent money on two fighters that I really thought would be world champions. And they both ended up, some guy offered them 50 grand, and they both took off like chickens. They just ran like as fast as they could run. Then Lehman walks into my gym and begs me to, after his real trainer, Bill Slade, died, if I would train him. And I says, I'll never train you again. I said, after what you did to me, I never want to be a part of you, because I made a bad choice of being working with you. Well, then I got a call from his manager, and he said, Jesse, you're not working for Layman Brewster. You're working for Sam Simon. I want to hire you to train him because he needs it. And I said, I'll tell you what, if that's the case, I'll give it a shot. Well, we win 2 big world title fights together. I beat him when he knocked the hell out of. He said to me, how do I beat a bully when he's fought Galata? I says, you bully him. You bully him. That's how you beat him. What did he do? He knocked him out in the first round.
He knocked Andrew Galata in the first round?
First round.
Wow.
Put him down 3 times in front of 19,000 Poles that were there to watch that fight in Chicago.
Wow.
Then he comes to me and he goes, they want me, his manager comes, they want us to fight. Don King wants us to fight in Germany. And Lehman didn't want to go take the fight. I says, Lehman, it's a $3 million fight. There's not anybody that can beat you if you do the right things. He went out there and he fought Kazniewski. And he killed him. He had him down for a 17 count. They could say on the monitor. They called it a 9 count. They were cheating like hell. The trainer's up on the ring apron all the way to the 11th round saying, just get through this round, you're going to win the world title. They had him losing the fight, and Lehman was beating the hell. I told Lehman, get on this guy and just keep banging away. So finally, the fighter sits there and turns around to his coach standing on the ring apron. Says, you get in and fight him. I quit. And they had him winning the fight when he was getting his ass kicked. Wow. But to make a long story short, Lehman then gets a call from this Al Heyman telling him that he'll only take this or that from him to leave his manager. And what's Lehman do? He didn't realize that Sam Simon bought a house for him, bought him a brand new car, had a growth fund set up for him to retire with. But all of it was in Sam Simon's name.
Sam Simon's an actor, or he's in the movies, isn't he?
Movies. He did The Simpsons and Taxi.
I was going to say,
yeah.
the same Sam Simon?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was his manager.
I didn't know he had a boxing background.
So Sam says, Jesse, when he left us, he wanted me to train him. I said, I ain't training you without Sam Simon. I'm not working for Al Heyman. And he went on without his next fight. Sam called me, Jess, you want to come over to my movie studio and watch this guy? We're going to watch him get his ass kicked without you telling him what to do. And he got his ass clean. And I put both my hands in the air like this. I says, God dang it, there's a God. Thank you so much. Because he cheated so many people, and he cheated the wrong people, And I don't want to make it like boxing is just all corrupt. It isn't. There's some great stories. But this kid got his ass handed to him, man. And he ended up being broke, and that's what happens when you cheat the wrong people.
It's karma, isn't it?
Karma. There is some karma.
Dude, Sam Simon. Yeah, I just know him from The Simpsons.
Yeah, same here. I was wondering if that was.
Sam Simon treated Layman Brewster like he was his son, and he left him. And then what did he do? Ended up he would have been taken care of for the rest of his life. and he ended up with nothing.
He's
That's
Layman
yeah.
Brewster's Chris Bird's cousin too, isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah, he was a pretty good boxer too. He's pretty fast.
real good boxer, good
Yeah.
middleweight when he
Mhm.
first started.
I think he's talking about making a comeback. I'm not sure though.
Oh man, I do the exhibitions like Tyson and them. Don't be coming
Yeah.
back.
I was gonna ask you, how do you what do you feel about the boxing landscape now? I mean, there's so many good fighters. I feel like boxing, it's back, it's coming back. You know.
I think it definitely is coming back. It's getting a new light, but in this, with all this virus and crap that's going around, it's kind of, thank God Top Rank's keeping the shows going, and got to just monitor. But boxing is coming back. There's a lot of great fighters.
Yeah, you
know,
got Tyson Fury, Joshua. You got Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. Obviously, the lightweight division is stacked. I mean, you know, who do you like out of everyone so far that I've mentioned?
Well, the young man that just won the world title against a Russian fighter for that took the
Lopez.
long. Yes.
Teofimo Lopez.
Yes, yeah, I like him. I think he's got a little bit of Floyd in him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got great power, and I think he's really very close to his father. I think that's a nice thing, that father and son relationship, but I hope it doesn't hurt him down the line. I mean, I think it's very tough. Fathers sometimes are more braver than the fighters, than their sons, and they can get you in trouble. But I hope that doesn't happen. He seems like he's going to do very, very well.
Yeah.
And how about the heavyweights? Out of the heavyweights, because everybody watches the heavyweights, who's going to pull out and be the top cheese in the heavyweight division? You think?
Well, Tyson Fury has great boxing skills, and he's strong and he's crazy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something. I like him. I like what's inside of him.
Yeah.
When he says he's going to do something, he goes out and does it. You know. But I worry about the drug thing that he's involved with. It might take him down. I hope not. But I think he's a great story. The drugs is something that's going to be on his back for a long time, and I hope he can keep it away from him and just live up to who he is and train hard, and he's going to make a great name for himself. He's got tremendous skills.
They say it's hard once you reach that mountaintop to be consistently the champion. That's probably a huge part of what's going on there, and with so many champions. What are your thoughts on that, Jesse?
Well, you know, it's hard to get to be a champion, but it's harder to keep a hold of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's so many young, talented kids that are coming up, and you know, it's hard to keep yourself on that same attitude all the time, to work hard and stay clean. And you got all these people with these false images that come at you that tell you how great you are, and you don't have to do this. Let's go party. Yeah. Let's go have fun. You know, you got all these bad people that have come around you that if you start listening, and sometimes fighters listen to the stupidest assholes that are out there instead of just staying with a small group of people that are positive and love you and care about you. They end up getting in these traps. And I think that to hold the title is a real challenge. And if you can hold it for 6 years, you've really done something. Yeah. Like, you know, look at Sugar Ray. I mean, even with drug problems, that son of a gun was champion for a long time. You know, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran. Just look at the skills, the skill levels, and the people they fought. There were so many talented guys in their weight class. Yeah. You know, Iran Barkley. Who would think he'd beat Tommy Hearns? He had the heart of a mountain lion. He went out there and chopped him down. You know, his styles make fights, and you might think that, hey, I got an easy fight. It ends up being I remember Orlando Canizales when I took him to fight Billy Hardy in London. And I told him, look, Billy Hardy's a big, strong kid, but this is going to be an easy fight. So I'm looking at Orlando in the shower after the fight's over. There's one thing I forgot. You got 15,000 Englishmen yelling out, Hardy, Hardy, and hardly anybody cheering for Orlando Gonzalez. We fought him in Stafford, England. And Orlando's in the shower with a black eye and a busted nose. He won the fight, but it was a very close fight. He goes, Jesse, whatever you do, don't ever tell me I got an easy fight. He said, that bitch was as tough as hell. And so I learned a lesson. So we're walking out of the stadium and we're going out of the building, and the BBC television come over to me. Hey, that was a great fight. Would you give Billy Hardy a rematch? I said, yes. And Orlando looked at me and he goes, Jesse, what are you doing? I said, it ain't going to be here. I'm going to take him to Laredo, Texas with that English ass and fry him out in 100-something degree weather. We'll see how he stands up out there. And you're going to have 7,000 Mexicans cheering for you. What did Orlando do? He didn't only beat him, he destroyed him. You know, it was that crowd made me understand that you want people cheering for you, not cheering for you, you know, because it's twice as hard to fight when you don't have anybody cheering for you. That's why I admire Mayweather. Mayweather, nobody came to see Mayweather win. They came to see Mayweather get beat. And look what he did. Look at the amazement he did. I mean, he's a great athlete, man.
It's that reverse psychology, right? Prove the people wrong.
Yes.
They say that about Michael Jordan, too. He had to make up reasons of why he hated people just to motivate himself. Time after time, game after game. Manny, did you find when you won your belt, things started to change in that direction that we're talking about?
Oh, you start finding new friends pop out of anywhere and everywhere, and you start to wonder, well, whatever. And then when it ends, you don't ever see any of those people either again. So, I mean, I didn't, that IBO world title that I had, I didn't hold it very long. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise too, right? Because I've never been one to get onto the drugs, but there was a lot of people around there that were kind of enticing it. And it's just a different world. And when I lived in Vegas, like I'd been around it. Like I lived with a guy named Bones Adams. Remember Clarence Bones Adams?
Do I remember him when he fought Orlando with a broken jaw for 8 rounds? That guy was a
tough guy. But yeah, I was around Bones quite a bit, and we got into some little bit of trouble. But we had it was kind of funny. We had a lot of good times. Just put it that way.
Well, Las Vegas is kind of a trap too.
Can be.
The fighter in Las Vegas. That's why you got to admire Mayweather.
Yeah.
You got so many outside influences and people saying they could do this and that. Let's go have a party. Let's have fun. You know, boxing is discipline, man. Being strong-minded and just know what that you have to be. When you run out of gas in a fight, there's no more horrible feeling in your life. Believe me. And that's what happened to Mayweather with Paul Spadofora. When that throat is going, you can't even breathe and somebody's beating your body in, you know. And yet he told me, no, I'll never be in that position again. And he never was. So that's how smart he is.
So what was Manny, when you met him, what made him different? Or was there anything that stood out to you? I mean, he was a teacher at the time. Is that correct?
And Manny and I have come from the same school. We learn from the mistakes that people make. We don't just go make the same mistakes. And maybe we weren't as talented as a lot of other people physically as boxers.
Yeah.
But we went a long ways in the game because we were disciplined.
Yeah.
We lived the sport. That's so important. It can bring the best out of anybody if you're in top shape.
For sure.
I remember fights that I was in, and I thought I'll never get through this damn fight. When I'd hear the crowd cheering and I knew they were cheering for me, it got me through the fight, you know, and I felt so good after it was over, you know, win or lose. I felt really good about myself that I got through that horrible feeling of maybe caving in. And then my pride got the best. I didn't want somebody calling me a dog. So, you know, you want to make sure when you come out of there that they at least know you're in there to fight the shit out of them, you know.
So who do you got coming up, Jesse? I hear you got a nice undefeated puncher.
I've got a young man that I'm telling you, being here in South Carolina, you'd never think I'd be here because Las Vegas and California were my homes. I spent maybe half my life in both places, and but I met him. I met a man through my son that is like to me, he's like a family member. I mean, he's just his name's Anthony Burkett. And he come up to me and he said, Jesse, he says, I want to start a program in South Carolina, but I don't want a lot of fighters. I'd like to get a real good fighter, and I'd like you to train them for me. And I said, geez, I don't want to leave Las Vegas, you know. And he said, well, what if I bought you a house and a brand new car? Would you come? I said, I'll be there tomorrow. and so, I mean, I'm in this home that Anthony built for me. And, you know, my wife's got a new car that Anthony bought for her. And he doesn't just give money away just to be giving it away. He gives it because he feels that he's going to get it back. And so I went out and looked for a kid that came into my gym that was like an Ansi Gideon. He was homeless when he was 16 out of Chicago. And he ended up going through California, Arizona, ended up in Las Vegas. Craig Parker's his name. And he came into the gym and he said, Jesse, I heard about what's his name said about you, all you managers and trainers out there, go look up Jesse Reid. Let him train your fighter. And he says, I've been looking for you for the last 3 years. I want you to train me. And I says, well, let me see what you got. And I put him in with the top kid I had, and he destroyed him. And I told him, I says, well, you don't need to show me what you got anymore. I'm very convinced that you can fight. And I said, listen, what we need to get somebody that can sponsor you so we have the money behind us that we can take you all the way. It's going to take money. It's going to take loyalty and a lot of hard work. And so that's where I brought in, I'll make another story that got me with, not only my son got me with Anthony, but there's a guy by the name of Bill that had Seabrooks. He was a young trainer, a young manager of Seabrooks. And he fought Orlando Canizales. Well, we won the world title off me. Well, Bill always remembered me. He was just a younger guy at the time, but he told Anthony, if you start a program in South Carolina, go look up Jesse Reid. That's the guy to get as your trainer. And so Bill really opened up the door along with my son for me to come here. But anyways, we got a facility to give you on maybe 20 acres of land with about 3 lakes around it that Anthony owns. And the gym is for one fighter. It's a private gym. And we probably got $150,000 worth of equipment in there. It's all brand new that he put in one of his warehouses. So this man is not just helping us. He's like a gift from heaven. I mean, it's like we're in a great spot. It's like being an Olympic gold medal winner and somebody sponsoring you. And yet here's a kid that was homeless that nobody even wanted to look at. And yet he's got this great ability. Well, we started working together. He's now 9-0, all knockouts. Every one of them went 1 round. One of them went 15 seconds in the second round that never been knocked out. 7 of the guys have never been knocked out, and all 7 of them have been put in the hospital with either broken ribs, a broken jaw, broken nose, are knocked out for 20 minutes. This kid's like Mike Tyson, looks like a Tyson, weighs about 190 pounds, very quick, very powerful. I can honestly go out and say he will be the cruiserweight champion of the world. Now they got this in their mind because of Cardona. They want to try to make light heavyweight. I don't see that happening. But I'm not saying they can't do it, but I don't like to see him messing around with his weight because he's so powerful and so dedicated and such a hard worker. You don't have to tell him to run. He run at 4 in the morning, to run in the snow. No matter what's there, he's going to run. And he comes into the gym and he's going to work his butt off. And he's a trainer's dream. He's just a wonderful young man that appreciates everything he's getting, and he's going to give everything it back. And Anthony has been that gift that we have, the three of us, and we're marching along, but we're going to be there. Craig Parker, 190-pound killer.
How do you get sparring for him?
We have been bringing in heavyweights. We've been bringing in different people from this area. We go to Vegas and work with anybody we can get there. With the money that Anthony has, it's not a problem getting sparring. And the people come and see a 4,000 square foot home on a lake. That's a training facility's house with a cook. And, it's just like you're training. It's special. It's not like they're not being spoiled. We are spoiled. It's fantastic. Wow. So, everybody that ever comes here don't want to leave. But it's, he's not interested in having 9 or 10 fighters. He's interested in doing the job with this young man, and that's it. And then after that, if we get the job done and we need to get another one, we get another one. But right now, that's his project.
Where did you find Craig Parker? Did he come to the gym in Vegas and you met with him there?
He found me.
He found you.
Yeah. What's his name said when I was training Paul Spadofora, you trainers and managers, you go out there and get Jesse Reid to train your fighter. That's where he heard that. And in his mind, he tried to get to me he thought I was in California. He was there for 2 years looking for me. He left home at 16 years old out of Chicago because he thought he'd get killed there. And, he found me in Las Vegas, and I found him. And like I said, he destroyed my one good fighter. And I said, I pulled my fighter out of there. And I told him, you don't need to go any more rounds. I've seen enough. And I have. And everything I've been around, Canizales, Johnny Tapia,
Camacho,
Frank Tate. This kid's got all that with power. When he hits you, something's going to get broken.
Did he have an amateur background?
He was a 20-0 amateur in Chicago, won the local Golden Gloves, but he got out of there because he also came in up. I don't want to. It's better for him to say it than me, but he came out of a family environment that wasn't that much fun.
Okay.
And he went on his own to find me, and he did. And I brought him here, and that's the way that's what it's all about.
That's an amazing story, Jesse.
It really is. And we're going to make it a good story when it's all said and done.
Absolutely.
And you'll be on us, and you'll be on our show, two champs, okay? 2 world champs.
I love this. Anything that can help boxing, I want to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
I see what you guys are doing. I want to be a part of it.
You're the man. You're the man, Jesse. Yeah. Actually, I was reading something about you interesting. You mentored Jason Perillo, who's who's one of the best MMA coaches in the world right now. Can you tell us a little?
To Jason. There's 9 trainers out there today. Alan Bonamy, my son, Roger Mayweather. Just think of the people that I've trained that are top trainers. But Jason Perillo has had 2 world titles. He won. He's got a girl that's a world champion. He's like my son. I raised him. And my son and him were very, very close. And yeah, Jason is like calls me about 3 times a month.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of him. and he's followed in my footsteps, and he's using my skills that I've taught him along with his own, and he's a great trainer.
Yeah, he's known to be one of the best striking coaches in all of MMA right now.
What he did for Penn, if Penn would have listened to him and lived clean, Penn could be a superstar for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Perillo developed Penn, believe me.
Well, he helped Michael Bisping win the title, right?
That's right.
Yes. Like I said, Jason's like a son to me. He calls me all the time.
Jesse, I don't know how to bring this up, but Jesse Jr. I loved that guy, the kid, you know, and your son was a beautiful, beautiful man, and I felt so heartbroken when I heard the terrible news, Jesse. I know that Levente and Hugo don't know this, but I do, and my heart goes out to you, buddy, because I know you guys are really, really close. And
my son.
Yeah.
Look in this room.
Yeah.
Right behind me, you see
a
picture. You know, my son. This is my son's room.
Yeah.
My son was a great athlete. I mean, he was a better fighter than I ever could even imagine. I mean,
well, he was an undefeated professional as well.
Yes, and he just was a Canizales, the fighters that he grew up around at a young age, and the things I remember one time he told me, I'm in LA and they wouldn't let him work in the corner because he had been drinking. He had a drinking problem. And he said, Dad, I hope I'm not embarrassing you. I said, listen, you're my son. You never embarrass me. Don't you ever worry about that. Yeah. That's the one battle I never won. I could never get him to stop drinking. Yeah. And I think when he quit boxing, it tore his heart out. And he had a bad marriage. And I don't want to put the blame on anybody. My son's his own body. But he just destroyed him. And my wife told me when he was having really down and having some seizures, for me to go live with him for 2 years, and I did. And I left my wife here, and when I was in Vegas, and I lived with my son. And here I am in bars, and I don't even drink, trying to be around him and have fun with him and do the things that I could do to help him. And I watched him collapse, and this big, strong, 6'2" monster turned into a shell. And I can only tell you that I know that he's in a good place now with God. Yeah. And I know that he's there and with my family, and I'm proud of him, and I never will doubt him. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
He was my backbone.
No, he was a great, great guy. I remember seeing him at the gyms in Vegas all the time.
He loved boxing.
Yeah.
He loved the people in boxing. He loved the sport.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think when he quit the boxing, it took a lot out of him, because he knew he could have been he didn't win the world title, but I definitely think if you talk to Kenny Adams, who I don't think fathers should train their son. I had Kenny Adams kind of training them. I mean, Kenny Adams trained him, and he treated him like he was his own son. And when he passed away, Kenny Adams said Jesse Reid was one fighter that I know could have won the world title.
Cruiserweight, right?
Yes, he was a monster.
Yeah, he was.
And he could punch.
Yeah.
He had my punching ability, but he had way more boxing skills.
Well, he had longer arms than you.
God, you knew how to use them.
Yeah. Yeah.
This room is Jesse Reid's room.
Yeah. Yeah, I see him right to your left there, just above.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a picture of a famous photographer took of me and Jesse at Freddie Roach's gym. And nice. My son was right on my side all the time. I can't tell you how many went. Him coming to me and tell me about Ancy Gideon was all I had to hear. I knew that Ancy could fight, because my son had a great eye for athletes.
Yeah,
and he was a great trainer himself.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, because he was training a lot of guys too. I remember that's when I seen him in Vegas too, and he was still fighting, but he was also into the training, and he had a great boxing IQ is what he had.
You're absolutely right. You know, at that time when I had Kenny, I would sit in the audience way back because I get crazy. You know, the hardest thing I had was to watch my son fight, even though he didn't get hit. I mean, he didn't get hit that much, but every time he did the punch, I never felt anything like that in my life. It scared the shit out of me. And I guess that's how close I was with him.
Yeah.
I was worried about every little thing, and I didn't even have to worry. You know.
Yeah, that's what makes us who we are, Jesse.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be here with you and doing this because I get to tell some of my war stories, some of the things that I went through. They're all good for people to hear.
Yeah,
you know, like Jesse Burnett. Jesse Burnett came to me out of Folsom Prison, and he wanted Jackie McCoy to manage him, and he was trying to get out of prison. And he walked in the gym, and so Jackie said, "Jess, what do we do? You want to spar with this kid so I can see how good he is?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go 3 rounds with him." After the second round, I looked at Jackie. I said, "Have you seen enough?" He said, "Why?" "Because I have." I said, "That son of a bitch can fight. He's knocking the shit out of me, man." So anyways, Jackie signed him up, and we got him out of prison. And he had this tremendous reflexes and timing and power that was unbelievable. And believe it or not, Jackie McCoy realized the closeness that Jesse and I had. I remember Jesse walking into the dressing room, and I had just come out of sparring, and I was going to walk in the dressing room, and Jackie said, "I'm talking to Jesse Burnett. Jess, could you give us some time?" And I stayed outside, and I heard him asking Jackie, with my police record, I've been in trouble most of my life as a kid. I can't get a job, and I got a baby coming, and I need to get more than what I'm knocking these guys out. Nobody wants to fight me, and I'm not making enough money. Could you help me get a job? And I remember Jackie telling him, "Well, I'll look around, but I don't think I can get you a job with your prison record." And it was like the world dropped for Jesse. I could, you know, and he come walking out of that room. And I said, "Jesse, I didn't mean to overhear what was going on, but I said, I've got a landscaping business." And that's before, when I first started really knowing that you need more than just boxing. So I had my own little landscaping business that I did like 6 hours a day. And I said, "Listen, I can use the help, and I'll give you like $25 a day and buy you a meal to start with until we get you, I'll build the business up, and I'll have you help me." And it was like a lifesaver for Jesse. I mean, he just jumped on that like it was going out of style, you know. He worked his ass off, and we ended up working together. And then Jackie McCoy saw that closeness, and Jackie was a very proud person. And he told me, "You know, Jess, I'm going to teach you the real boxing business. You trained the world champion for me. I want you to take Jesse and manage him." I said, "Jackie, I'm no manager. I'm just starting out as a trainer." He says, "I think you really learn boxing, and I think you can help him because he means a lot to you." So I ended up managing Jesse for 16 years. He ended up being #1 in the world. We went all over Europe. He couldn't fight in California because nobody wanted to fight him. He fought 4 world champions. He beat all 4 of them. Galinda is one of them. No, never would get a title fight. He's a one fighter that should have been a champion with me. That I was a young guy learning the business. I was buying spots in Europe to try to get fights for him and get him on some recognition. I took him to Japan and got him sponsored, but nobody wanted to fight him for the title. And today, Jesse and Jason Perillo call me 3 times a month, maybe 4. They're like my sons. Jesse couldn't get a job for a while after he was working with me, and I got him a job at UCLA from my old ex-football coach. They hit his police record, and he retired from UCLA as a groundskeeper there. And then he quit boxing as #1 in the world. For 10 years, he was #1 in the world. and he quit boxing at 40 years old. And I told him to get into training fighters. He said he never wanted to train fighter. He ended up being a trainer, and he's working at UCLA for almost 40 years. He retired here just recently, so he's kind of sitting back, got a nice fishing boat in the house, and he's done very well. And like I said, he's like my son too. And so, and he's also a good trainer. So, that's another story, another time.
And he fought at light heavyweight, right, Jesse Burnett?
Light heavyweight, and Eddie Gregory of Mustang.
You asked him.
Yeah, but it was an elimination bout with Eddie Gregory, and Jesse had hurt his back running up in the mountains in Griffith Park, and he didn't want to pull out of the fight because he was going to get $100,000 for the fight. And I told him, you're physically not ready. He says, I got to fight that fight, man. I need the money. So we took the fight, and Eddie Gregory in the 11th round stopped Jesse Burnett, TKO'd him. Nobody ever knocked him out. And if you went to Eddie Gregory or Eddie Mustafa and you went to him and said, what do you think was the toughest fight you ever had? He'll tell you, no, without a doubt, Jesse Burnett. He was a tremendous, tremendous athlete. And he fought him at 37 years old. Leon Spinks, after he fought Muhammad Ali, Don King called me up and put me in a fight with him. We went over to Detroit, put him down 3 times, couldn't even recognize him. And Jesse Burnett said, and he lost a split decision, which he won. If you look at his fights, he never was beat unanimously by anybody. They were and he'd fight anybody. But financially, he's sound. He's got a nice home. It's paid for. I'm proud of what I did for Jesse and what Jesse did for me. I'm awesome. Proud of what Nancy Gideon did for me and what I did for Nancy Gideon. These are the stories that people have got to hear. It's not always about how much money you make. It's about what you've done to make them leading citizens and great people that have passed on good things to other people. That's what boxing's all about.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful. I've never heard a trainer think of it that way and really measure the success of their fighters in terms of their life success and the career after boxing. So that's very, very cool to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's not always about the world champion. It's about the Bobby Chacones and the kids the Nancy Gideons and the kids that had these wars. Freddie Pendleton, who had 18 losses. Freddie Pendleton ended up winning the lightweight title of the world. Those are the stories that people got to hear.
There's something you don't know about me, I sparred probably 100 rounds with Freddie Pendleton in Miami, Florida. What was his trainer's name? He had the guy, because they had a camp. I forget his name. He was a really good trainer.
I know who you're talking about. And you remember Freddie Pendleton when he knocked out Roger Mayweather?
Yeah.
And Roger killed him every day in the gym, but Roger didn't run at all for the fight. He thought he was going to kill him. Ooh. I told him, this guy could punch. Yeah. And Roger was knocked out so bad his body was shaking.
Yeah.
Learned a lesson from that one.
Yeah. The times I was sparring with Freddie Pendleton was back in 1988 at the 5th Street Gym in Miami Beach. And he fought Sammy Fuentes in October, I believe, of 1988. And that was all because of all the sparring that we'd done. It was great.
That guy that managed him owned all those, what they call trailer courts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Freddie ended up finally getting with somebody that could really help him, and he ended up winning the world title. But boxing's not only about the straight A student.
No.
About that kid that's been shafted so many times that somebody finally took a liking to, that still had the skills, maybe didn't have the record, but he ends up showing other people that he's better than what they think he is.
And change it right around.
Yeah, you change their whole life. Yeah. And that's what our jobs are as trainers. Not only did I work with the top athletes, I would work with kids that's like a Johnny Black, a kid that was homeless that I found living in a trailer court out in his truck, trying to make it. And I ended up taking him on. He was I think had something like 7 or 8 losses. And he ended up today, he's got a nice little mechanic job. He worked with his dad was a drug addict, got him on drugs when he was young. He wanted to kill himself. And today he's a leading citizen and got a baby living in Las Vegas. Those are the stories that people got to hear. That there's a lot of kids that we save, that we take to different types of things in life, and not only just through boxing, but on their just the character of who they are.
Yeah. Changes their lives,
It changes their lives.
Manny does a lot of youth work in our community as well.
Yes, I know, man. He's built like that. He's got a good heart. I'm pretty good judge of character, and Manny is. Look at this. I mean, here we are all together, talking some good things about boxing, and it's through Manny, and the relationship that we did have together.
And we met Manny. He did youth work with us when we were 15, 14
True.
years old.
Yes,
it's true.
And so he, having a guy like that in the community was huge on the lives of kids like us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah,
absolutely. Trickle down.
One person and make them do the right things, and they end up passing it on. That's
the beautiful thing about life, Jesse. The beautiful thing about life, just being alive and being able to do stuff like that, and it's what else? What else do you live for, right? Like, I mean,
well, something. There is a God,
yeah.
And if you do the right things, the strongest word in the dictionary is love.
Yeah,
it's handled properly.
Right.
Love is a wonderful thing, and respect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the things that Manny comes out of your heart is the love for the sport, and the love for the human being.
Yeah.
That you have a heart of a person that was a warrior, and you know both sides of it. So that's so important, and that's just made me successful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You got to draw from that.
I didn't know you were the football player you were, though. So I learned something about you.
Yeah. I was an All-American at LA State. We're #1 team in the nation.
That's
not even
crazy.
UCLA. Our SC would even scrimmage us back in 1964.
That's awesome.
For national champions.
Played in the NFL, hey?
Yeah, well, the San Diego Chargers offered me some money to play football for them as a defensive free safety. I was a hell of a defensive player. I like to hit people. That's why I told the special sir, I said, I like to hit people. Let me try that boxing. That's it brings the best out of you when you can let your hands go.
Kept you out of Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam though, there's bullets flying. Man.
Yeah, exactly. You can't avoid those. So Jesse, what are the chances of you hooking us up with Jason Perillo next time you talk to him? Ask him if he wants to be on the show.
I'll talk to him here probably I'll give him a call and tell him that he'll do that.
Or maybe we could have both of you on too one time. That'd be so cool. And you
love to have that happen.
Just tease out on the internet these stories, right? That otherwise may never be heard.
Yeah, that's something I think Jason would love to do. So I'll give him a call and I'll talk to him about it. I'm sure he would love to do it.
And what would be great too is to get to Craig Parker, your fighter, on one day just before everyone else gets to him. You know what I'm saying? Because I looked at his record, Jesse. Like, he's friggin' 9-0 with 9 knockouts all the first round. He's like this, like I told you, that Berlanga guy. It's almost the same thing. They just haven't found out about this guy yet.
Yeah, and what we've done is really most of the guys that he's knocked out have never been knocked out.
No, I saw the records. Records. They weren't guys that were stiffs. Yes,
they were not. Well, this last guy had never been. He got knocked out got a broken rib and knocked out with a body shot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wow, Jesus.
We could keep going, but it's been almost 2 hours.
It's old. Yeah.
How about we end?
I'll keep in touch with Manny, and I'll get a hold of Jason,
and we'll have you back one day.
Yeah. Can do it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What a pleasure it's been. I mean, I could tell you got even more stories. Geez, yeah, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, man.
Thank you very much. I think this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
People think boxing is all bad. It isn't. There's a lot of good that comes out of it. you know, when you train somebody, you want to remember that when they're done boxing, that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, not they're going to be dead and buried.
Yeah.
You know, I've always thought of what's going to happen to them when they're done boxing, because they're so used to the crowd and the cheering and the compliments and stuff. All of a sudden that's gone. And if you see that they can financially support themselves and take care of themselves, you've done a job. You really, it's like old money. People that have old money are worth it. They've taken care of it. It's, you know, it's just not just how you spend it.
Beautiful.
So life is a lot of lessons, but there's some good ones out there.
And the thing about boxing teaches a lot of those lessons. It's like a microcosm of life, Jesse. You know, like you're down on the ground, knocked out, and then you got to get yourself back up, just like in life, man.
It's the greatest life lesson there is.
Yeah.
You got a broken nose, and either you want to quit or you want to say bullshit. I ain't letting nobody let the doctor stop this. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's the kind of heart you got. I want to go to war with that kind of a guy. I don't want to go to war with some guy that's running around the corner, hiding behind a tree. You know, you want to have somebody that's got some balls, you know, and really care.
Beautiful. Well, I say we ended with that. Or
Your wife's probably waiting for you for dinner, Jesse. We don't want to get you in trouble, buddy.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it a lot, believe me.
Thank you, Jesse. This has been a pleasure.
All right,
Jesse. Thank you all. I love you, and God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you, man.
Take care. Talk soon. All right, guys, that's a wrap.
I'm Jerry Trimble.
I'm Manny Sobral.
And that's 2 World Champs.